Welcome, everyone, to the 12th episode of the 792 Florida Sports Podcast. I'm Hunter Williams, and I'll be joined by a special guest later in the show, and I'll introduce him once we get to that point. And we're just going to go ahead and get started. I was at the Columbia versus Lee game this past Friday. Definitely a very rough game, and what was probably Columbia's overall, let's just be honest, probably not the best performance that we've had as a team all year. Really not what you would have hoped for a game that essentially decided who would be being the district champion. Even though Lee didn't officially clinch a district title this past Friday, they are in a situation where they control their own destiny. They're in a situation where they defeat Gainesville next week at Citizens Field, and they will be able to sweep the district and probably claim a pretty high seed in the North playoffs. And Columbia, despite being the number 2 team in terms of RPI and actually being ahead of Lee RPI-wise coming into this week, they are looking at most likely the 5 seed in the playoffs. Of course, though, we're going to have to, when you turn the ball over 4 times in the game and are held scoreless at halftime, it's not exactly a good spot to be in as you try to head into the second half. And even though Columbia did put up a fight in the second half, their mistakes ultimately costed them. Especially, like, they had a fumble at the 5-yard, like the 10 or the 5, like I believe it was 10-yard line, with that under a minute to play, with a tie ball game, which could have very well been led to a game-winning field goal at the end of regulation. But that's just some of the hands you're dealt sometimes. Obviously, Columbia's going to have some work cut out for them as they're going to play Atlantic this Friday in their return to home for the first time in a month. But anyway, that wasn't the only notable score from this past week, as some of the scores that definitely caught my attention from the Florida aspect. Raines knocked off Ribault 10-7 in the Northwest Classic. Madison County knocked off undefeated Dunellen 47-35, while Kula held on to knock off Suwannee 28-18 and put themselves ahead in the district race. Mandarin upset Oakley 34-33 and put themselves in a situation where they control their own destiny in their district. They'll play Sandalwood this Friday, which we'll get into later in the show. Sanford Seminoles stayed undefeated, knocking off previously unbeaten Flagler Palm Coast 34-9. Miami Central blanked Miami Norland 38-0. And Miami Edison pulled off what was probably considered an upset with a 7-6 win Thursday night over Miami Carroll City.
So, about to hit on a major game nationally for this week, and I'm joined from Joe from Prep Gridiron Logistics. Welcome aboard.
Hey everyone, how are you today?
We're about IMG versus St. Francis. It's the big game that's been 3 years in the making. A lot of hype going into this game up in Baltimore. 2 nationally ranked teams, and what's your overall thoughts for this one?
Well, I love the game. I'm happy it's finally taking place after it being canceled for various reasons the last 2 years. The last time they played, IMG spanked the Panthers 38-0 in 2016. But obviously, St. Francis program is a much different program this year than it was back then. It's a battle of 2 top 5 teams. Some polls have St. Francis number 2, some have IMG number 2. They go back between 2 and 4 or 4 and 5. So it's going to be a great game. St. Francis's only blemish is to the number 1 team in America, Mater Dei. When they went out there, when Prep Gridiron Logistics held the Trinity League versus the USA triple header about a or 6 weeks ago out in Cali at St. John Bosco. St. Francis flew out there and took it on the chin from Mater Dei that Saturday. That's the only blemish. I saw them live a couple weeks ago when they came to New Jersey and beat top 20 ranked St. Joe's Regional 28-0. It's a close game for the first half. IMG was leading 7-0. They blew it open in the second half, winning 28-0. But it's a highly anticipated game. It almost did not come to happen again this year, but thankfully it is. So it's a great matchup. It's a close game. I mean, there's stars on both sides of the ball, D1s all over the place. I know on our PrepGridiron.com site, literally it's 50-50. Half the pickers believe IMG is going to win, and half the pickers believe the home team, St. Francis, is going to win. And so we'll see. Very exciting, and a lot of great players participating in this game that we're going to hear big things from later on in their college careers.
I know we talked briefly before we were able to get on for the show about the St. Francis IMG game and our picks in that. It seems that we both have the same conclusion of what we're expecting from this game.
Yeah, I personally believe St. Francis will win this one. A lot of different reasons. You know, they're in my opinion more battle tested. They're playing at home. Again, they don't have their own home field, but they're playing, at Morgan State, which is not too far from where the school's located. And they really want this game. I mean, they like I said, it almost didn't happen. IMG, their media rights was held by one network. St. Francis media rights was held at the time by another network. They were both fighting for the game, and the game was actually canceled during negotiations. And I was contacted. I kind of got involved and spoke to both staffs, and we did, told them, let's do what's right for the kids. Let's put money aside and broadcasting rights aside. So when all said and done, it was a pretty hard 48 hours, but literally the game was canceled. IMG was starting to look for other opponents, but I got involved. Prep Gridiron Logistics got involved, had conference calls with both, and thank God we were able to make the game happen with no TV, unfortunately. But you know what? It's better than playing the game without national TV rights than not playing it at all. So yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward. I'll be there Friday night. And, I think St. Francis is going to win this game. I think the experiences they've had so far this year, playing the top team from New Jersey, playing the top team from California and the United States of America, Mater Dei, I just think they're going to be ready. They're going to be hyped. This is basically the biggest game St. Francis has ever hosted in their own neighborhood. They expect a big crowd with a lot, they're having a special promotion where if you're a youth football player, you come in your uniform, you get in for almost no money, which is great. So the community's going to embrace the game. Hopefully there'll be a great showing. I anticipate the game to be very competitive. Hopefully come down to a fourth quarter touchdown or field goal. But we'll see. It's great. We're thankful it's happening for the first time since 2016. These two teams are the two toughest teams to schedule in America. We have over 250 clients at Prep Gridiron Logistics. These are our top two clients, and they're the hardest two teams to schedule. So they should be playing each other each and every year. So let's hope this is the first of many annual showdowns between these two great top five teams.
Most definitely. And I'd say this would be a pretty competitive game as well. But I agree with your assessment. I do see this being a one-score game in favor of St. Francis. Even though I don't feel like IMG is really that bad, and I do feel like both teams are very good. I just feel like St. Francis is just a little bit better overall from what I've seen, both of them on film and on their roster. But this is definitely...
You gotta remember the last time they played, you have to remember who was on IMG Academy's team. Kellen Mond, you had Trey Sanders, Grant Delpit, Dylan Moses. Like I said, this isn't the St. Francis of 2016. They're much better. This IMG team, in my opinion, the 2019 team, isn't as stacked as 2016 was. You got Rick's great, Capehart, Cavazos, Allen, Michael Redding, great players, but not the caliber of those, four that I just mentioned, who went on and who are doing great things, at the highest level in college football right now.
I don't really feel like any of their teams that they've had could compare to that 2016 team.
Yeah, I agree. That was a special team. Once in a decade team, maybe. We'll see. Again, the players they have, they're all everything players. Elias Ricks, DeMonte Capehart, Cavazos, Katron Allen, Michael Redding. They're great players. They're going to present well. But you have a good quarterback. You don't have Kellen Mond. All right, and you're on the road this time. You're not hosting St. Francis down in the friendly confines of Bradenton. So we'll see what happens. Like I said, when I saw St. Francis up in New Jersey a few weeks ago, they bowled out, beat the very good number one team in New Jersey, shut them out 28-0. Can't wait for Friday night to get here. IMG's won 50 of its last 51 games, and the Panthers have won 29 of their last 30. So I'd say outside of the two top Trinity League teams, St. John Bosco and Mater Dei, these are two of the top teams in the country right now, the hottest teams in the country right now in terms of wins and losses. And the one common thing that they do share is they both lost to Mater Dei in the last few years. IMG last year and St. Francis this year.
This game also had a bit of dominoes involved in it that affected other teams. In fact, this game may have very well led to another game happening this week, Columbia versus Atlantic. Part of this, you could say, had an impact with the IMG St. Francis game because early on, there was a situation with, of course, when that game looked to potentially fall through, Columbia stepped up to try to schedule IMG. They had almost pretty much an agreement to move it to week 9 that fell through. By the time that happened, though, Columbia had already found another kickoff classic, so there was basically nowhere to throw IMG at. So that left Columbia now looking for a week 9 game. At the same time, Atlantic had a game get canceled on them with John Curtis. This had a mutual opening, which worked out really good for both teams, as now we're getting one of the best teams in North Florida versus the number one team in Palm Beach County playing this week.
Yeah, that was a hectic weekend. It was all happening at the same time. I was down in South Carolina, getting a little R&R with the family. I'm getting all these calls, getting calls from the St. Francis IMG folks that the game's going to be canceled, and we're trying to resurrect that game. In the meantime, before I had gotten involved, IMG started to look for other opponents. They told Columbia, hey, we're playing the regular season now. We don't have to play in the kickoff classic. Everyone thought that was going to happen, and they dropped everything they were doing, not knowing, I was working, Prep Gridiron Logistics was working in the background, trying to keep the game from being canceled. When the dust settled, the game was, it all worked out. We got IMG St. Francis playing. I got a call during the process from the Atlantic coach because a team had canceled on him. So it all happened literally in 48 hours, maybe 72 hours. Calls going back and forth. the head coach of Deerfield Beach, Coach Glenn's a good friend of mine. We work with them very closely.